I was holding my ID in my hand when my son said, "Mom, please stop. You're embarrassing yourself." We were standing in the lobby of a municipal building, about 30 people in line, a clerk behind the glass, and a form on the counter with my name on it. "I just need to confirm something," I said, sliding my ID forward. The clerk reached for it. My son stepped in front of me. "She's confused," he said quickly. "I'll take care of this." The clerk froze. So did I. Because in that moment, I understood something terrifying. I was still standing, still speaking, still holding proof of who I was. But to him, I was already gone. I didn't understand it fully in that moment. I just knew something had shifted. Not in my body, not in my mind, but in the way other people were being invited to decide things about me. That morning, I'd put on my good cardigan. Not because I thought I needed to impress anyone, but because I was raised to show up like I mattered. I clipped my hair back. I put on lipstick. I slid my ID into the side pocket of my purse like a lucky charm. My son, Mateo, insisted on coming with me. He framed it as help. "Just let me drive," he said. "Just let me handle the clerk," he said. "Just let me translate the forms," he said, like my English had suddenly become foreign. I let him, at the start, because that is what mothers do even after their children grow tall. We give them a job to do so they can feel useful. We hand them the remote, the car keys, the heavy grocery bags. We let them step in front of us, and we call it love. I didn't realize that stepping in front of me was becoming his favorite position. The municipal building smelled like old air and disinfectant. The line moved in slow, tired increments. Behind the glass, the clerk's face was lit by a computer screen. I waited. Then I heard my name. Not spoken to me, spoken about me. Mateo leaned toward the clerk, voice low, quick, practiced. "It's my mother," he said. "She's been having episodes. We're trying to get her paperwork straight before she makes mistakes." The clerk glanced at me for a fraction of a second, then looked back at him, like I was scenery. I stepped forward. "I'm right here," I said, "and I'm not an episode." That was when Mateo turned and hissed, "Mom, please stop. You're embarrassing yourself." Embarrassing myself by existing. I held my ID in my hand, and the plastic felt warm from my palm, like it was trying to reassure me. The clerk finally slid the form forward. It had a clean title and ugly meaning: Petition for Guardianship. The word landed like a stone in my chest. "Guardianship over me," I said. Mateo smiled, gentle in public, firm underneath. "It's not like you think," he said. "It's protection." "Protection for who?" I asked. He leaned closer, lowering his voice the way people do when they want to make you feel small. "Don't make a scene," he whispered. "Not here. In front of witnesses." I looked at the clerk behind the glass. "Please," I said, "ask me what I want. Don't let him speak for me." Mateo didn't wait. He stepped in front of my ID again. "She's confused," he said quickly. "I'll take care of this." And just like that, he tried to pull the room out from under me. Before that day, I thought I had a simple life. I worked in a city library for years. I loved the quiet order of books, the way every story had its rightful place. When I retired, I thought I'd earned the right to be ordinary. My husband died at our kitchen table. Not dramatically. He set a mug down, sat in his chair, and never stood up again. After the funeral, people brought casseroles and sympathy and suggestions. "Move in with your son. Downsize. Don't be alone." I kept my house. I kept my routines. I kept my keys in the same bowl by the door. Mateo was my only child. That meant he was my whole map, my whole future, my whole reason to keep moving forward when always been bright. He had always been persuasive. He had always known how to tilt the room toward himself without anyone noticing. As a boy, he could talk teachers into second chances. As a man, he learned the language of concern. It's the most useful language in the world, because when you say you're worried about someone, people stop questioning your motives. They assume you're noble. They assume you're exhausted. They assume you're doing your best. Mateo married Celeste. She was polished in a way I could never quite imitate. Perfect hair, perfect nails, a smile that never reached her eyes. She hugged me like she was measuring me. "You're so lucky to have a son like Mateo," she'd say, as if I hadn't raised him. They had children. My grandchildren became my soft place to land. I babysat, I baked. I sat through school events under fluorescent lights, clapping until my palms stung. I was useful, until I wasn't. It started with small rewrites. "You forgot what day it was," Mateo would say, even when I hadn't. "You repeated yourself," he'd say, even when I was telling the same story to a different person. "You left the stove on," he'd say, even though the burner click is the main sound I listen for before bed. It was like watching someone build a case out of shadows. Celeste backed him up with soft sympathy. "We just worry," she'd say. "Things happen," she'd say. "You don't want to be a burden," she'd say. Burden. That word is a leash, and because I didn't want to be one, I let them hold the rope. Then Mateo began showing up unannounced. He'd let himself in with a spare key I had given him years earlier for emergencies. "Just checking on you," he'd say, walking through my living room like he owned the air. He'd open the fridge, he'd frown, he'd sigh loudly the way you sigh when you want someone to feel guilty without accusing them. A day came when he stood in my kitchen and said, "This house is too much for you." "This house is my life," I said. He smiled like I was a child insisting the moon belonged to me. I know, that's what makes it hard. Hard for who? For me or for him? I didn't ask. Mothers are trained to avoid making their children look like villains, even when they're behaving like one. That winter, he showed up with a locksmith. "You're changing my locks?" I asked. "Just a safety upgrade," he said. "You've been leaving the door unlocked." "I haven't," I said. He squeezed my shoulder gently, firm underneath. "Mom, see? This is what I mean. You get defensive. You don't remember." The locksmith looked uncomfortable. Mateo handed him the instructions anyway. When the locksmith finished, he handed the keys to Mateo first, not because the locksmith was evil, because Mateo had positioned himself as the owner of the narrative. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and put my ID in front of me. My photo stared back, my name printed in confident ink. Ruth Lopez, proof of existence. I didn't know then how much I would need that proof. Back at the municipal building, the clerk's hands hovered over her keyboard like she was afraid to move. I refused to sign. Mateo tried to steer me away from the counter like I was a stroller. "Let's go," he said, gripping my elbow too tightly. I pulled my arm back. "Don't touch me," I said. That startled him more than yelling would have. He looked around, aware of eyes. The clerk pressed a button and a supervisor appeared from behind a door. A woman with sensible shoes and the posture of someone who's had to end arguments for a living. "What seems to be the issue?" she asked. Mateo smiled, quick and bright. "My mother is having a hard day," he said. "I'm just trying to help her with paperwork." The supervisor looked at me. "Ma'am," she asked, "is that correct?" "No. My son is trying to file for guardianship over me without my consent." The supervisor's face tightened, not shocked, tired. She'd heard versions of this before. "Sir," she said to Mateo, "if your mother is present and refusing, you cannot file this here today." Mateo's smile flickered. "She doesn't understand," he insisted. The supervisor's gaze stayed on me. "Ma'am," she asked, "do you want information about your rights?" I could have cried from relief. Yes, I said, I do. Mateo's voice sharpened. This is ridiculous, he snapped. She's being stubborn. The supervisor didn't flinch. Sir, she said, you may wait outside. You will not speak for her at this counter. Mateo walked away, furious because he couldn't charm his way past a rule. I sat in a small room off the lobby, holding my ID like a lifeline, and I realized I had to move fast. Because men like Mateo don't ask permission twice. They find another door. When I got home, the new locks greeted me like a warning. I could enter because Mateo had given me my copy, but I could feel the truth in the metal. It wasn't my key anymore. It was his. I opened the drawer and pulled out a notebook. Plain cover, lines, a place to record the truth. I wrote everything. What happened, what was said, who witnessed it. Because I finally understood something. If you don't write it down, someone else will write it for you. Then I made 3 calls that changed everything. A call was to my friend Elena from the library, the kind of friend who doesn't dramatize, doesn't gossip, just shows up. Elena, I said, I need help. I'm coming, she said, no questions first. Another call was to an elder rights attorney whose name the supervisor had scribbled on a note, Marisol Vega. When her office answered, I said, I think my son is trying to get guardianship over me. There was a pause, then a calm voice. You're not the first, the receptionist said. Can you come in? A final call was to my doctor's clinic, not because I thought I needed reassurance, because I wanted documentation that didn't come from my son. Elena drove me to Marisol's office the next morning. I brought my ID card. I brought my notebook. I brought the stubbornness Mateo hated. Marisol listened without interrupting. Then she said, You did the most important thing already. What's that? I asked. You refused, she said. You stayed present. You didn't sign away your voice. She explained what guardianship can do and how easily it can be misused. People call it protection, she said, but it becomes possession. Possession. That word hit me like cold water. Marisol slid a document toward me. This lets you name who you trust if you ever truly need help, she said. The difference is you choose. I named Elena and my niece, Sophia. Marisol filed it. Then Marisol asked me about my keys. Did he take them? She asked. Yes, I said. Then we change your locks again, she said. This time with your consent, in your name, with records. That sentence, your consent, your name, felt like oxygen. We did it properly. A locksmith I chose, a receipt in my folder, keys placed in my palm first. I put them back in the bowl by my door, and beside them, I placed my ID card, plastic and metal, identity and access, my symbols. The worst part was that for a while, I almost believed him. That's what manipulation does when it comes dressed as devotion. It makes you question your own memory. It makes you replay normal mistakes, misplacing glasses, forgetting where you left a receipt, and treat them like proof of collapse. It makes you apologize for being human. After my husband died, I had grief brain for months. I would stand in a room and forget why I walked into it. I would reach for the phone and forget who I meant to call. I would put groceries away and later find a box of tea in the pantry with the canned beans and feel foolish. Mateo watched those little moments like a fisherman watching a bobber. You see, he'd say gently, you're not as sharp as you used to be. I would laugh it off because what else do you do? I didn't want to turn my own life into a courtroom. I didn't want to defend myself against my son. But then the help started arriving in packages I didn't order. An afternoon, a man in a polo shirt showed up at my door with a clipboard. He smiled like he was selling solar panels. Hi, he said. I'm here to do a home safety check. A what? I asked. He glanced at his clipboard. Your son requested it. We're just making sure there aren't hazards, trip risks, fire risks, that sort of thing. I felt heat rise in my face. I didn't request anything. The man's smile faltered. He looked uncomfortable, like he had walked into a private argument. I can reschedule, he offered. No, I said, and surprised myself with the firmness of it. You can leave. He left, but what he left behind was worse than his clipboard. He left behind a message. Mateo was recruiting strangers to confirm the story he was telling. Later that week, Celeste invited me to lunch. Her texts were so cheerful you'd think she was planning a baby shower. Let's talk. Let's clear the air. We want you to feel supported. Supported. That word kept showing up like a stamp. At the restaurant, Celeste arrived early and chose a table where everyone could see us. I noticed that immediately, because when someone wants you to look unstable, they love a public setting. She smiled and touched my hand across the table. Her nails were neat and expensive looking, and her touch was soft, but it didn't feel like affection. It felt like a photograph. Ruth, she said, we love you. We're worried. There it was again. She asked me questions that didn't sound like questions. They sounded like traps. Do you ever feel overwhelmed alone in your house? Do you ever worry you might fall and nobody would know? Do you ever get confused when you're paying bills? When I answered calmly, she would tilt her head like she was concerned anyway. You're so brave, she'd say, as if I confessed something tragic. Then she leaned in and lowered her voice. I'm going to be honest, she said. Mateo is under a lot of stress. He's trying to hold everything together. And sometimes you make it harder. I stared at her. How? I asked. She sighed, the practiced sigh of a woman presenting herself as the reasonable one. You resist help. You insist on doing everything yourself. You argue over small things. It's exhausting. Exhausting. Like my autonomy was an inconvenience. I took a sip of water to give myself a second. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Celeste, I said, I am not a workload. She smiled like I said something cute. Of course not, she said, but you are a responsibility. That word again, responsibility, like I was a child. I set my glass down. I raised your husband, I said. I worked a full career. I ran a household. I buried a man I loved. I do not need to be managed. Celeste's smile tightened, then returned. We're not trying to manage you, she lied softly. We're trying to protect you. Protect you. Always protect you. I looked at her and asked the question I should have asked at the very beginning. What do you want? I said. Her eyes flicked away for half a second. It was enough. She wanted fewer complications. She wanted fewer unpredictable variables. She wanted a clean system where the older woman was quiet and cooperative. She wanted control that looked like care. Ruth, she said, voice still sweet, I want you to have peace. Peace isn't silence. Peace is respected. Celeste's mouth tightened. Her softness cracked for a moment. You're making this harder than it has to be, she said, and her tone carried something sharper underneath, threat. I left the restaurant with my shoulders tight and my head held high. Outside, the sunlight felt too bright, like the world didn't match my insides. I sat in my car and took my ID card out of my purse. I held it in my hand and stared at my name, Ruth Lopez. Not a responsibility, not an obstacle, not a file. Me. At home, I started noticing how many little doors Mateo had already tried to close. When I called to refill a prescription, the receptionist said, "We usually talk to your son about this." When I asked why, she sounded apologetic. "He said you get confused on the phone," she'd explained. When I called the utilities office to update a mailing address detail, the agent said, "We have a note that your son handles your account." I asked who put that note there. There was about money, it was about authority, about who gets to say yes and no, who gets to sign, who gets to be taken seriously. Elena helped me make a list. Every institution Mateo had touched, every place my name existed in a system. Doctor, pharmacy, utilities, school, municipal records. We called them, calm and polite, and asked a simple question each time. Who is authorized to speak for Ruth Lopez? And then we corrected the answer. Sometimes the person on the phone sounded relieved, like they were happy to hear directly from me. Sometimes they sounded skeptical, as if my voice wasn't enough proof that I was real. That's when I learned something else. People are trained to believe the younger, confident voice. They hear it and assume competence. They hear an older voice and assume decline. So I stopped sounding apologetic. I stopped laughing to soften my firmness. I stopped saying I'm sorry before I made requests. I spoke like I belonged in the system, because I did. When Mateo found out I'd been calling institutions, he came to my house in a storm. He didn't knock, he pounded. When I opened the door, he stood there with his jaw clenched and his eyes bright with anger. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I'm correcting misinformation," I said calmly. "You're making me look like a liar," he snapped. "You are lying," I replied. His face flushed. "I'm trying to help you," he said. "Why can't you accept help?" "Because it isn't help when it comes with a leash. Because it isn't help when it comes with humiliation. Because it isn't help when it comes with paperwork you didn't ask for." But I didn't say all that. I said something simpler. "Because you don't ask," I said. "You decide." Mateo stepped closer, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be, the boy who wanted approval, who wanted to be the hero in my eyes. Then the adult version stepped in front again. "You don't understand how serious this is," he said. "If something happens and you can't make decisions, it will be chaos." "Then we plan together," I said. "We did plan," he insisted. "You just don't remember." There it was, the little pin, the subtle twist. I took my notebook from the table and opened it. "I remember," I said, "and I write it down now." Mateo's eyes flicked to the pages. His expression tightened. "That's unhealthy. You're obsessing." "No," I said, "I'm documenting." He stared at me like he didn't know which move to make next. Then he changed tactics. He softened his voice. "Mom," he said, "do you trust me?" I felt the question hit my ribs. Trust, the big one. I looked at my son's face and saw love and danger sitting together like roommates. "I trust that you love me," I said carefully. "I don't trust what you're willing to do in the name of love." Mateo's eyes widened, like I'd insulted him. "You're being dramatic," he said, voice rising. "No," I replied, "I'm being honest." He shook his head like he couldn't believe I'd turned into someone who wouldn't simply surrender. "This is why we have to do it legally," he said, and the sentence made my blood run cold. He left before I could answer, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because I doubted myself, because I realized he'd stopped trying to persuade me. He'd moved into force. A few days later, I got a call from someone who introduced herself as a court investigator. Her voice was neutral, professional. "Miss Lopez," she said, "I'm following up on a petition that was filed. I'd like to schedule a visit." My throat tightened. A visit? To evaluate me, to observe my home, to decide whether I was competent. This is how people get removed from their own lives, not by kidnapping, by appointment. Marisol told me to agree politely and to have my chosen witnesses present. Elena came. So did Sophia. Not to argue, just to exist in the room as proof that I wasn't isolated and confused. When the investigator arrived, she carried a folder and a gentle smile. She asked me questions about my day-to-day life. She looked around my living room. She noted the stairs, the rugs, the kitchen. Celeste would have loved it, a stranger cataloging my life. The investigator asked me, "Why do you think your son filed?" I could have ranted. I could have cried. I could have painted Mateo as a monster. Instead, I said the truth, simple and clean. Because he thinks control is the same as love, I said, and because he's used to being believed. The investigator's pen paused for a moment. Then she kept writing. She asked me if I felt pressured. Yes, I said. She asked me if I felt safe. I feel safe in my home, I said. I feel unsafe when my son tries to take my rights. The investigator looked up and her eyes softened slightly. Then she said, "Thank you. That's helpful." Helpful. A different kind of helpful than Mateo's. When she left, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. And I understood that this wasn't just a family fight anymore. It was a system fight. A fight for the right to be treated as present until proven otherwise. Mateo didn't stop. He filed for a hearing anyway. The notice arrived in the mail, plain envelope, cold language. Petition for guardianship hearing. His name, my name, a date. I sat at my kitchen table and stared at it until my coffee went cold. My ID card lay beside the paper, my keys in their bowl, my notebook open like a witness. Marisol arrived with a calm that made my spine feel straighter. "This is why we prepared," she said. "He wants the judge to think you're unsafe, and he's the hero." Hero. He loved that role. "We don't need to prove you're perfect," Marisol said. "We need to prove you're competent and that you are being heard." The hearing was in 7 days. 7 days to brace myself, for my son to stand in a courtroom and tell the world I couldn't be trusted with my own life. The courthouse smelled like old wood and anxiety. Mateo was there with Celeste, polished and concerned, the face of a family doing the responsible thing. He tried to greet me like nothing was wrong. "Mom," he said softly, standing up. I didn't hug him. I just nodded. When the judge entered, everyone stood. The judge's face was unreadable, practiced in not taking sides until evidence forced one. Mateo's attorney spoke first. A worried son, a stubborn mother, safety concerns, vulnerable, at risk. Mateo spoke next. "I love my mother," he said, "but she refuses help. She gets agitated. She doesn't remember agreements." I listened, and the strangest part was realizing how believable he sounded. Because he wasn't screaming, he was performing concern. Then Marisol stood. She didn't call Mateo evil. She didn't need to. She let documents speak. My cognitive assessment, my decision-maker designation, the supervisor's note about the attempted filing without consent, statements from Elena and Sofia about my daily life. Then Marisol asked the judge for something simple. "Your Honor," she said, "please hear from Miss Lopez directly, not through her son." The judge turned to me. "Miss Lopez, do you understand why we're here today?" My throat was dry. My heart thudded. My ID card sat in my palm like a promise. "Yes," I said. "We're here because my son wants control over my decisions." Mateo flinched. The judge asked me questions, basic ones, where I lived, how I handled my routines, whether anyone had restricted my access to my home. I answered calmly. Then the judge asked Mateo a question that cracked his mask. "Mr. Lopez," she said, "did your mother consent to you changing her locks and taking her keys?" Mateo began with the word safety. Of course he did. The judge repeated slower. "Did she consent?" No, Mateo admitted. The judge's face hardened, and in that moment, the room shifted, because there's a difference between someone who is confused and someone who is being silenced. The judge denied the petition, not with drama, with a sentence. Petition denied. Miss Lopez retains full decision-making authority. The gavel tapped. Mateo's face went pale. Celeste's lips pressed into a thin line. I didn't feel fireworks. I felt weight, the heavy relief of still being myself on paper. Afterward, Mateo didn't speak to me. He walked out like the floor had betrayed him. In the parking lot, Elena squeezed my hand. "You did it," she whispered. Marisol looked at me and said, "This isn't magic, it's protection. Keep your documents, keep your record, keep your boundaries." I went home and did exactly that. I changed my routines, I removed spare keys, I kept my notebook updated, I kept my ID close. Then, one evening, Mateo showed up alone. He stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, eyes avoiding mine. "Mom," he said softly. I stayed in the doorway. "What do you want?" I asked. He swallowed. "I didn't want it to be like this," he said. "You filed to take my rights," I replied. "What did you think it would be like?" He looked down. "I thought you needed help," he said, voice cracking slightly. "I thought you were slipping and you wouldn't admit it. I thought if I didn't act, something bad would happen." "And then you acted," I said. "And something bad did happen. You tried to erase me." He closed his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I believed he was sorry in that moment. I also knew remorse doesn't rebuild trust instantly. "I love you," I said, "but love does not mean access." He looked up. "Can we fix it?" he asked. "Maybe," I said, "but not fast, not with control, with time, with respect." He nodded, defeated. "Start," I told him, "by not speaking for me again." He nodded once, then walked away. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against it, breathing hard, because even winning can hurt. A week after the hearing, a plain envelope arrived from a place I didn't recognize. Inside was another document, the kind printed with confident formatting to make you assume it's official. It wasn't from the court. It wasn't from Marisol. It was from a private company that specialized in planning services. In neat language, it congratulated me on taking proactive steps and encouraged me to finalize an authorization package so my family could assist with future decisions. Assist. Always that word. Attached was a form that looked harmless, a signature line, a place for initials, a paragraph that said, in softer terms, that someone else could speak for me. Someone else. Of course. I stared at it and felt a wave of exhaustion. It was like Mateo couldn't accept the judge's no, like he kept sending different versions of the same question, hoping I'd say yes by accident. I called Marisol. She listened, then sighed. "This is common," she said. "When people can't get control through court, they try to get it through private paperwork. They mail forms, they push planning, they say it's for convenience." "What do I do?" I asked. "You don't sign," she said, "and you keep documenting who is sending you what and why." I looked at the form again. "It feels like I have to be vigilant forever," I said. Marisol's voice softened, but not into pity. "It won't always be this intense," she said. "Right now, you're teaching him a new reality. He's resisting it, but reality wins if you keep holding it." Reality wins. A simple sentence that felt like a hand on my shoulder. Mateo started leaving gifts on my porch. A plant, a bag of my favorite pastries, a small framed photo of the grandchildren. At first, it looked like apology. Then I realized what it really was, a way to re-enter without asking. An afternoon, I opened the door and found him standing there with a smile and a folder. "Mom," he said, too cheerful, "I brought you something. I didn't move aside. I didn't invite him in. What is it? I asked. He held up the folder like it was a peace offering. Just some paperwork to make things easier. Nothing scary, just practical. Practical. The word people use to make control sound boring. I don't sign paperwork you bring me. His smile faltered. Why are you treating me like a stranger? He asked, hurt flashing in his eyes. Because you treated me like a problem to be solved. Because you called me confused to a clerk behind glass. Because you tried to take my rights. But I kept my voice steady. Because you tried to take my autonomy, I said. And because you keep acting like consent is optional. Mateo's face tightened. He glanced around the porch, as if searching for an audience. You're still angry, he said. Yes, I replied. Anger is appropriate when someone tries to erase you. He swallowed. I apologized, he said. And I heard you, but apology doesn't mean you get to pick up where you left off. He looked down at the folder, then back at me. I'm trying, he said. Then try this, I said, and my voice softened just a fraction. Ask me what I want and accept the answer. Mateo's eyes glistened. He nodded slowly. What do you want? He asked. It was the first time in months he had asked me directly like that, not as a rhetorical question, not as a trap. I took a breath. I want you to stop building stories about me. I want you to stop recruiting strangers to confirm those stories. I want you to stop making my life a problem you solve. And I want you to learn how to be my son without being my handler. Mateo's shoulders sagged. He admitted, I don't know how. I believed him. Control was his language for so long, he didn't know what else to speak. Then learn, I said. And if you need help learning, get help. He flinched. Therapy, he said, like the word tasted bitter. Call it whatever you want, I replied. But if you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on respect, not fear. He nodded, slow. I can do that, but his voice sounded like a man stepping on unfamiliar ground. I held my gaze steady. Start, I told him, by not speaking for me again. He nodded once, then walked away. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against it, breathing hard, because even winning can hurt. A week after the hearing, a plain envelope arrived from a place I didn't recognize. Inside was another document, the kind printed with confident formatting to make you assume it's official. It wasn't from the court. It wasn't from Marisol. It was from a private company that specialized in planning services. In neat language, it congratulated me on taking proactive steps and encouraged me to finalize an authorization package so my family could assist with future decisions. Assist, always that word. Attached was a form that looked harmless, a signature line, a place for initials, a paragraph that said, in softer terms, that someone else could speak for me. Someone else, of course. I stared at it and felt a wave of exhaustion. It was like Mateo couldn't accept the judge's no, like he kept sending different versions of the same question, hoping I'd say yes by accident. I called Marisol. She listened, then sighed. This is common, she said. When people can't get control through court, they try to get it through private paperwork. They mail forms. They push planning. They say it's for convenience. What do? I asked. You don't sign, she said. And you keep documenting who is sending you what and why. I looked at the form again. It feels like I have to be vigilant forever, I said. Marisol's voice softened, but not into pity. It won't always be this intense, she said. Right now, you're teaching him a new reality. He's resisting it, but reality wins if you keep holding it. Reality wins. a simple sentence that felt like a hand on my shoulder. Mateo started leaving gifts on my porch: a plant, a bag of my favorite pastries, a small framed photo of the grandchildren. At first, it looked like apology. Then I realized what it really was: a way to re-enter without asking. He was trying to slide back into my life on the softest possible feet, so the boundary wouldn't notice. An afternoon, I opened the door and found him standing there with a smile and a folder. "Mom," he said, too cheerful, "I brought you something." I didn't move aside. I didn't invite him in. "What is it?" I asked. He held up the folder like it was a peace offering. "Just some paperwork to make things easier," he said. "Nothing scary, just practical." Practical. The word people use to make control sound boring. "I don't sign paperwork you bring me," I said. His smile faltered. "Why are you treating me like a stranger?" he asked, hurt flashing in his eyes. "Because you treated me like a problem to be solved," I thought. "Because you called me confused to a clerk behind glass. Because you tried to take my rights." But I kept my voice steady. "Because you tried to take my autonomy," I said, "and because you keep acting like consent is optional." Mateo's face tightened. He glanced around the porch as if searching for an audience. "You're still angry," he said. "Yes," I replied. "Anger is appropriate when someone tries to erase you." He swallowed. "I apologized," he said. "And I heard you," I answered. "But apology doesn't mean you get to pick up where you left off." He looked down at the folder, then back at me. "I'm trying," he said. "Then try this," I said, and my voice softened just a fraction. "Ask me what I want and accept the answer." Mateo's eyes glistened. He nodded slowly. "What do you want?" he asked. It was the first time in months he had asked me directly like that, not as a rhetorical question, not as a trap. I took a breath. "I want you to stop building stories about me. I want you to stop recruiting strangers to confirm those stories. I want you to stop making my life a problem you solve. And I want you to learn how to be my son without being my handler." Mateo's shoulders sagged. "He doesn't know how," he admitted. I believed him. Control had been his language for so long, he didn't know what else to speak. "Then learn," I said. "And if you need help learning, get help." He flinched. "Therapy?" he said, like the word tasted bitter. "Call it whatever you want," I replied. "But if you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on respect, not fear." He nodded slow. "I can do that," but his voice sounded like a man stepping on unfamiliar ground. I held my gaze steady. "Start by leaving the folder," I said, "and start by not coming in unless invited." Mateo hesitated, then placed the folder on the porch table and stepped back. "Okay," he said quietly. He turned to leave, then stopped. "Mom," he said, voice small, "when you stood in court, I realized I'd been talking about you like you weren't in the room, like you were a problem. I hate that." My throat tightened, not with forgiveness yet, with grief. "I hate it too," I said, "but hating it isn't the same as changing it." He nodded. "I'm going to try," he said, and then he left. I picked up the folder and carried it inside without opening it. I set it on my kitchen table beside my notebook. I took out my ID card and placed it on top, like a paperweight. Plastic on paper, proof on persuasion. A week after the hearing, a plain envelope arrived from a place I didn't recognize. Inside was another document, the kind printed with confident formatting to make you assume it's official. It wasn't from the court. It wasn't from Marisol. It was from a private company that specialized in planning services. In neat language, It congratulated me on taking proactive steps and encouraged me to finalize an authorization package so my family could assist with future decisions. Assist. Always that word. Attached was a form that looked harmless, a signature line, a place for initials, a paragraph that said in softer terms that someone else could speak for me. Someone else, of course. I stared at it and felt a wave of exhaustion. It was like Mateo couldn't accept the judge's no, like he kept sending different versions of the same question, hoping I'd say yes by accident. I called Marisol. She listened, then sighed. "This is common," she said. "When people can't get control through court, they try to get it through private paperwork. They mail forms. They push planning. They say it's for convenience." "What do I do?" I asked. "You don't sign," she said, "and you keep documenting who is sending you what and why." I looked at the form again. "It feels like I have to be vigilant forever," I said. Marisol's voice softened, but not into pity. "It won't always be this intense," she said. "Right now, you're teaching him a new reality. He's resisting it, but reality wins if you keep holding it." Reality wins. A simple sentence that felt like a hand on my shoulder. Mateo started leaving gifts on my porch. A plant, a bag of my favorite pastries, a small framed photo of the grandchildren. At first, it looked like apology. Then I realized what it really was, a way to re-enter without asking. He was trying to slide back into my life on the softest possible feet, so the boundary wouldn't notice. An afternoon, I opened the door and found him standing there with a smile and a folder. "Mom," he said, too cheerful, "I brought you something." I didn't move aside. I didn't invite him in. "What is it?" I asked. He held up the folder like it was a peace offering. "Just some paperwork to make things easier," he said. "Nothing scary, just practical." Practical. The word people use to make control sound boring. "I don't sign paperwork you bring me," I said. His smile faltered. "Why are you treating me like a stranger?" he asked, hurt flashing in his eyes. "Because you treated me like a problem to be solved," I thought. "Because you called me confused to a clerk behind glass. Because you tried to take my rights." But I kept my voice steady. "Because you tried to take my autonomy," I said, "and because you keep acting like consent is optional." Mateo's face tightened. He glanced around the porch as if searching for an audience. "You're still angry," he said. "Yes," I replied. "Anger is appropriate when someone tries to erase you." He swallowed. "I apologized," he said. "And I heard you," I answered. "But apology doesn't mean you get to pick up where you left off." He looked down at the folder, then back at me. "I'm trying," he said. "Then try this," I said, and my voice softened just a fraction. "Ask me what I want and accept the answer." Mateo's eyes glistened. He nodded slowly. "What do you want?" he asked. It was the first time in months he had asked me directly like that, not as a rhetorical question, not as a trap. I took a breath. "I want you to stop building stories about me. I want you to stop recruiting strangers to confirm those stories. I want you to stop making my life a problem you solve. And I want you to learn how to be my son without being my handler." Mateo's shoulders sagged. "He doesn't know how," he admitted. I believed him. Control had been his language for so long, he didn't know what else to speak. "Then learn," I said. "And if you need help learning, get help." He flinched. "Therapy?" he said, like the word tasted bitter. "Call it whatever you want," I replied. "But if you want a relationship with me, it has to be built on respect, not fear." He nodded slow. "I can do that," but his voice sounded like a man stepping on unfamiliar folder," I said, "and start by not coming in unless invited." Mateo hesitated, then placed the folder on the porch table and stepped back. "Okay," he said quietly. He turned to leave, then stopped. "Mom," he said, voice small, "when you stood in court, I realized I'd been talking about you like you weren't in the room, like you were a problem. I hate that." My throat tightened, not with forgiveness yet, with grief. "I hate it too," I said, "but hating it isn't the same as changing it." He nodded. "I'm going to try," he said, and then he left. I picked up the folder and carried it inside without opening it. I set it on my kitchen table beside my notebook. I took out my ID card and placed it on top, like a paperweight. Plastic on paper, proof on persuasion. That night, I dreamed about my library. In the dream, the shelves were endless, a quiet maze. I walked with my ID card in my hand, and every time I turned a corner, I saw books with my name on the spine. Ruth Lopez, Ruth Lopez, Ruth Lopez. Then I saw a book with a different name, Mateo Lopez. He was trying to shelve it in my section. In the dream, I stopped him. I took the book gently from his hands and put it back where it belonged, not to punish him, to restore order. When I woke up, I understood why that dream felt so true. I had spent my life organizing stories, making sure they went where they belonged, making sure the truth stayed findable. Mateo had tried to rewrite my catalog. He had tried to move my life into a category where he could check me out, and I had finally said no. In the weeks that followed, my world got quieter. Not perfect, not healed, but quieter. The calls from random planning companies slowed down when Marisol sent a notice. The subtle changes on accounts stopped when I kept reporting them. The fear in my chest eased when I realized I had witnesses, paperwork, and a record. I learned to keep copies. I learned to ask for names. I learned to say, "Please note in your file that I do not authorize anyone else to speak for me." I learned to stop being embarrassed by firmness, because embarrassment is a tool people use on women like me. It's how they keep us polite while our lives are being rearranged. Mateo had used that tool. He'd thought it would work. Now, when I think back to that municipal building lobby, I don't just remember the humiliation. I remember the moment I refused to step back. I remember the supervisor saying, "You will not speak for her at this counter." I remember how that sentence sounded like a door opening. And I remember the feel of my ID card in my hand. Not just a plastic card, a symbol, a reminder that my name belongs to me, even when someone tries to say it for me, even when the person trying is my own child. There is a moment in every story like mine when people ask the wrong question. They ask, "Why didn't you just let him help?" As if help is always harmless. As if a son can't become a threat because he wears the right smile. As if a mother should be grateful for any attention, even the kind that comes with a leash. The better question is this: why did he need me to disappear in order to feel like a good son? That question doesn't have an easy answer. It has roots, fear, pride, the panic of watching a parent age and realizing you cannot control time. I understand those roots. I even have compassion for them. But compassion is not consent. So I live differently now. I keep my documents organized. I keep my friends close. I keep my boundaries clear. When someone talks over me, I interrupt calmly. When someone tries to handle something that belongs to me, I say no without apologizing. And when I feel the old pressure to shrink, to be polite, to be quiet, to not make a fuss, I do a small thing. I reach into my pocket. I touch the edge of my ID card, a tiny piece of plastic that reminds me of a massive truth. I am here, not a rumor, not a case, not a burden, not a story someone else gets to narrate. Me, Ruth Lopez, still speaking, still standing, still holding proof in my own hand. If you're listening and something in your gut feels familiar, don't wait for the courthouse. Don't wait for the hearing notice. Start with the smallest act of reclaiming. Tell a trusted person what's happening. Write down what was said. Ask every office to speak to you directly. Keep your keys where you can see them. Keep your name in your own mouth. Because the scariest part of being erased is how quiet it can be. A smile, a form, a sentence delivered like kindness, and then, suddenly, the world treats you like you're already gone. You're not gone, not unless they decide that for you. Sometimes I imagine the alternate version of this story, the version Mateo wanted. In that version, I keep smiling, keep nodding, keep letting him stand in front of me. I sign what he slides across the table because I don't want conflict. I hand him my keys because I don't want to seem ungrateful. I let him speak for me because it's easier than insisting on my own voice. That version ends quietly, not with tragedy, but with disappearance. So I choose the harder version, the version where I keep showing up, where I keep saying my own name out loud, where my life stays mine, even when someone tries to file it away.
If this story touched your heart, you're welcome to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for being here. Until the next story.